A very good morning, students. Today we are going to see lesson 3, production analysis, part D. That's the lesson in detail. Let us move on into the lesson. We are going to see the law of variable proportions with the help of a diagram. What is law of proportion? Variable proportion. As equal increments of one input are added, the inputs of other productive services being constant. Beyond a certain point, the resulting increment of products will be reduced. That is, the marginal products will diminish. Marginal means the additional products will diminish. Now let us see the assumptions what are needed for law of variable proportion. Assumption means it is a rule. It must be like this. The law of variable proportion must be functioning like this. Only one factor is variable while others are held constant. Variable means changing, constant means remaining same. All units of the variable factor are homogeneous means single in nature. For example, all the units of the variable factor are homogeneous means single in nature. The product is measured in physical units. Physical unit means you know that, isn't it? Kilograms, grams, all these things, measurements. No change in the state of technology. The product must be produced the same technology, in the same model. There should be no change in the price. Then only the production will be made properly. So it reaches the consumers also properly. There is a tabular column for the law of variable proportion. You see the tabular column. Units of variable are given there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, isn't it? The total product is given. 2, 6, 12, 16, 18, 18, 16. Total product is given. So how we are going to find the marginal product? The calculation for marginal product. So 2 is the first one, isn't it? So next you see 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. I am telling you the calculation, listen properly. The total product is given. Now we are going to calculate the marginal product. So 1, 2, 3 will be in first stage and 4, 5 will be in the second stage and 6, 7 will be in the third stage. So we will do the calculation now. 6 minus 2 is equal to 4. 12 minus 6 is equal to 6. 16 minus 12 is equal to 4 and 18 minus 16 is equal to 2. 18 minus 8 is equal to 0 and 16 minus 18 is equal to minus 2. So you need to see 2, 4, 6, 4, 2, 0 and it's coming to negative minus 2, isn't it? As we saw in the previous class, we see that, isn't it? It will change and it will come to 0 and it will come to the negative point. So I told you the calculation. Now how to find the average product? For finding the average product, we must use the formula. That is AP is equal to TP by N. AP is equal to TP by N. AP is what? TP is what here? 2. 2 by 1 means the number. N means the number. 2 by 1 is equal to 2. 6 by 2 is equal to 3. 12 by 3 is equal to 4. And 16 by 4 is equal to 4. 18 by 5 is equal to 3.6. And 18 by 6 is equal to 3. 16 by 7 is equal to 2.8. So we are calculating like this. First the total product is given. You are calculating by reducing the numbers. And next one you are using the formula and you are finding out AP. TP by N. TP is given in that first column and N is the numbers. So you are finding out the stage. With this tabular column, you will draw the diagram for the law of variable proportion. Okay. So you see the diagram in y-axis TPL, MPL, that is total product and marginal product and average product is given. And in the x-axis, units of variable factor are given. So as I told you, you will write the tabular column and you will draw the diagram in your note, and with that you will write the illustration for the explanation of the diagram. In the first stage you see MPL. MPL means marginal product, isn't it? The first stage MPL increases up to the third laborer and it is higher than the average product. So that the total products is reducing at an increasing rate. You see the diagram and you will write the illustration, the explanation, okay? If you draw the diagram itself, you can write the explanation very clearly. In the first stage, MPL increases up to third laborer and it is higher than the average product. So that the total product is increasing at an increasing rate. The tendency of total product to increase at an increasing rate stops at the point A. Stops at the point A and it begins to increase at a decreasing rate. This point is known as point of inflection. A is the point where it is stopping, isn't it? So it is known as point of inflection. Next we will move on to the stage 2. Stage 2, in this second stage, MPL decreases up to 6th unit of labor where MPL curve intersects the x-axis at 4th unit of labor. MPL and APL. MPL is equal to APL. After this MPL curve is lower than the APL. TPL means the total product curve increases at a decreasing rate. APL means average product, MPL means marginal product, and TPL means total product. And we are going to see the last stage, third stage. Third stage of production shows the 6th unit of labor is marked by negative MPL. The APL continues to fall but remains positive. After the 6th unit, TPL declines with the employment of more units of variable factor labor. So it is reducing the variable factor labor. Next we will see about the list of the properties of Isocon curve with the diagram. It's an important question, you will learn thoroughly, okay. What is the Isocon curve has negative slope? You see the diagram. It has negative slope. You see the A, B, C, D points. So it is negative slope left to right, isn't it? If more of one factor is used, less of the other factor is needed for producing the same level of output. That is the factors. Factors means land, labor and capital. The more of one factor is used, less of the other factor is needed for producing the same level of output. More of the one factor means the labor. For example, we can take the labor. In the diagram, combination A refers to more of capital K5 and less of labor L2. As the producer moves to B, C and D, more labor and less capital are used. With the diagram, you are writing the explanation. Next one, convex to the origin. What is convex to the origin? This explains the concept of diminishing marginal rate of technical substitution, that is MRTS-LK. M is marginal, R is rate of technical substitution, that is called as MRTS-LK. For example, the capital substituted by 1 unit of labor goes on decreasing. The capital substituted by 1 labor means the capital is the investment amount, isn't it? It goes on decreasing when moved from top to bottom. If so, it is called diminishing MRTS. Constant MRTS, it is a straight line, and increasing MRTS is concave or also possible. You can see in this explanation is given for these diagrams. That is diminishing MRTS, constant MRTS and increasing MRTS. You see the different types of curves. So you see. So first the explanation is given and then you are drawing the diagram. It's better you draw the diagram and write the explanation. So you see for the diminishing curve first. For example, the capital substituted by 1 unit of labor goes on decreasing when moved from top to bottom. Isn't it? You see the first diagram, top to bottom. If so, it is called diminishing MRTS. Next one you see constant MRTS means what? Straight line, isn't it? The straight line you see in the second figure. And increasing MRTS concave, you see the third figure, are also possible. It depends on the nature of Isocon curve. So it's better you draw the diagram and give the explanation. Next one, non-intersection of Isocon curves. For instance, point A lie on the Isocon curve IQ1. So you see IQ1 and IQ2. IQ means Isocon curve. IQ means Isocon curve. But the point C shows a higher output at the point B shows a lower level of output. Okay. You see the red curve C and the blue curve B. So level IQ1, if C is equal to A, B is equal to A, then C is equal to B. But C is greater than B, which is illogical. So they are telling it does not intersect, but it is intersecting, isn't it? It is illogical. Next one, an upper Isocon curve represents a higher level of output. Upper Isocon curve means you see the red curve, that is upper Isocon curve. There are two curves are there. Always there will be a combination of two factors, isn't it? We are seeing here about the labor and capital in both the section, both the topics. First you are saying the labor and the capital. You see the first curve, red curve, it's upper curve. IQ 2. Higher IQ shows higher outputs and lower IQs show lower outputs. So upper Isaacan curve implies the use of more factors than the lower Isaacan curve. Next one, Isaacan curve does not touch either x-axis or y-axis. You see the figure? So it doesn't touch each other. Touching, isn't it? So you see the blue curve, it is not touching the y-axis. And you see the red curve, it is not touching the x-axis, isn't it? So they have explained to you that no Isaacan curve touches the x-axis or y-axis because IQ1 only capital is used and IQ2 only labor is used. Isn't it? In x-axis labor is used and y-axis capital is measured. Now next we will see about the laws of returns to scale. Laws of returns to scale means in the long run there is no fixed factor. Fixed means no fixed factor means always it will be a change, isn't it? The labors will change, the number of labors will change, the capital will change, the organization will change. All factors are variable. Always there will be a change. The laws of return to scale explain the relationship between output and the scale of inputs. Output means the profit and income. The input means the raw materials, investment, capital. All these are what is put in by the producer. In the long run, when all the inputs are increased in the same proportion, it will be in the output also. Assumptions. Assumption means what are the rules for the production. That is, all the factors of production such as land, labor and capital are variable. Variable means changing. But organization is fixed. There is no change in technology. Or the technology must be the same. There is perfect competition in the market. Perfect competition means large number of buyers and sellers in the market for a product. That is what is produced. Output of returns are measured in physical quantities. As I told you, physical quantities means you would have learnt in physics, isn't it? How to measure. The kilogram, Celsius, all these things will come. Increasing returns to scale. That is, there are three types of scale. That is, increasing returns to scale means in this case, if all inputs are increased by 1%, output increased by more than 1%. So you can learn it very easily. When now, in this case, if all inputs are increased in 1%, output increased by more than 1%. Okay. Next one, constant returns to scale. In this case, if all inputs are increased by 1%, output increases exactly by 1% only. But you see, in the previous one, more than 1%, isn't it? Here, exactly 1% only is increasing. Diminishing returns to scale. In this case, if all inputs are increased by 1%, output increases by less than 1%. So you can write this by a formula. You can write in a paper and see. That is, first one, when the inputs are increasing, it increases only more than 1%. And in the case of constant returns, only 1% is increasing. And diminishing returns, when the input is increasing, output increases by less than 1%. With all these things, you will draw the diagram. This diagram is for law of diminishing returns. This diagram is for what? Returns to scale. So we will see draw the diagram clearly. You draw it in your note and then you write the explanation. The movement from point A to B. You see where to A to B. The curves, 4 red curves are that is increasing and decreasing. So D is the increasing curve. So the movement from point A to B, you see A down, that is 1 and 2. Represent increasing returns to scale because between these 2 points output has doubled, but output has tripled. The law of constant returns to scale is implied by the movement from the point B to point C. Because between these 2 points, inputs have doubled and output also has doubled. Decreasing returns to scale are denoted by the movement from the point C to point D. Since doubling the factors from 4 units to 8 units produce less than increase in inputs. Lastly, we will see about explain the internal and external economies of scale. So what are the internal economies means what are the process going on in production inside the firm. What is going on inside the firm and outside the firm. So first we will see economies are broadly divided into 2 types by Marshall. Internal economies and external economies. First we will see about the internal economies. Internal economies are the term internal economies of scale refers to the advantages enjoyed by the production unit which causes a reduction in the cost of production of the commodity. So there are five things are there in internal economies of various types. That is technical economies. Technical economies, when the size of the firm is large amount of capital can be used. And next one, financial economies. Financial economies by big firms big firms can float shares in the market for capital expansion, while small firms cannot easily float shares in the market. Labor economies. All these are going inside the firm. Okay, technical, financial, managerial are going inside the firm, industry. All these processes are going inside the industry. Okay, firm or industry. Next one, labor economies. Large scale production implies greater and minute division of labor. Minute division of labor is there. This leads to specialization which enhances the quality. Managerial economies means large scale production facilitates specialization of delegation, isn't it? The authorities which are given to the people in the organization. And next one, marketing economies. In the context of large scale production, the producers can both buy raw materials at cheaper cost. And economies of survival. The product diversification is possible when there is large scale of production. This reduces the risk in production. So next we will see about the external economies of scale. That is, increased transport facilities are there. This is out of the firm. So the production is made and the product is taken outside through what? Transport. Increased transport facilities are there. Banking facilities, development of townships, development of information and communication. All these are going in the external economies. So with this we finish this lesson, and in next class we will start with the next lesson. Thank you students. God bless you all. Stay home, stay safe, be healthy.